thanks so much for inviting me to speak. It's truly an honor to be speaking at the NOFA New Jersey Winter Conference. And I'll be wanting to share my screen because you don't want to just look at me the whole time. It's disabled so far. I can't do that. Okay, it's coming up. All right. So I've titled my talk, Let's Get Real, Protecting Organic from the Ground Up. But first, before I get into kind of the nitty gritty there, I'd like to just tell a little bit about my own history and how that interfaces with the history of the organic movement. I grew up on a small farm. We had a few dairy cows, raised and sold sweet corn in central Iowa. My mom was a big gardener. She also, earlier in life, had been the personal secretary of Mrs. Henry A. Wallace, FDR's Secretary of Agriculture and then Vice President during those years. So certainly raised my awareness about conservation and political engagement. And we had about a 1 acre pond, spring-fed pond back in the woods on our farm. My dad had the vision to dam up these springs, and it really shaped my love of nature, of fishing, of wildflowers, trees. And my dad was a visionary, but unfortunately he was quite a bit older than me and died when I was 13, so I didn't get to know him all that well. But one of the magazines we received in our household growing up, we didn't have a television, but we got Organic Gardening magazine. And I read through those pages and also loved my mom's garden, and especially the compost pile, because it's a place where I knew I could always find earthworms to go fishing in the pond. My first exposure to anybody from New Jersey was when I went to Grinnell College, where I majored in biology and political science, and Bruce Springsteen came and played in Darby Gymnasium. He had been booked before he went big, a couple years, and when he was locked into coming to Grinnell, it was right when Born to Run was hitting it and Clarence Clemons had joined the band. That was quite an experience to have him slithering through the crowd right next to me in Darby Gym. Well, after a while, I moved to Southeast Minnesota. I met a beautiful woman, Joyce Ford. We got married and lived there for many, many years. Raised two daughters, an older girl, Laura, and younger girl, Sonia, which are just joys to our lives. We built our own home, tore down an old barn, and put in solar panels and actually lived off grid for 25 years with power from the wind, the sun, and heating with wood. And so there's the home we built, and we eventually hooked up to the grid when we put up a bigger solar array so we could sell power when we had excess. But most of the time, Joyce and I worked the land. We had up to 11 acres in organic production and soil building rotations, and helped start the Winona Farmers Market on the banks of the Mississippi River in Southeast Minnesota. And this was in the mid 1980s. And we were a group of 4 farmers that helped start the market. And we got to create our own rules. And we said, you have to grow it or process it yourself within a 50-mile radius of Winona. And that market has always been a local foods market, and it's the place to be on Saturday mornings in the summer in Winona. But I started doing organic inspections during that same time, inspecting other farms. Our farm was certified organic, but before long, I was asked to help train other inspectors, and that led to the inspectors getting together and saying, we need our own organization. And so we formed what's now the International Organic Inspectors Association, and developed trainings. We held trainings all over the US, Canada, Latin America. This just happens to be a training we held in Maine, It's hard to tell who's inspecting whom here. This is a training we held on an Amish farm in Pennsylvania. And there's a couple people from New Jersey I see, L. Johnson with his yellow pad kneeling there in front. And I see L is still on the board of NOFA New Jersey. Good for you and good for the organization, Al. And there's Emily Brown Rosen with the yellow notebook. She worked for NOFA New Jersey and was instrumental in starting the Organic Materials Review Institute, which plays a critical role in the whole organic regulatory system. I got to travel to Japan, I think 7 times, doing trainings there. And one thing we found very interesting in Japan, 10 minutes before class would start, everyone would be in their seats, pen ready, and most of them wearing suits. During those trips to Japan, I also got to work with my good friend Yoko Mizuno, who helped form the Japan Organic Inspectors Association, but also here meeting with the Vice Minister of Agriculture to shape and have input on the organic regulations in Japan. And every business meeting in Japan seems to end with a night out, dinner, possibly even karaoke. But one of the things I really took away from my time visiting Japan, I always like to spend some time at a Shinto shrine, which are always humble and in nature. And my understanding of the Shinto belief is if you're Japanese, you're Shinto, which means you're of the earth. Now you can choose to be Buddhist or whatever you want, but you are of the earth. And that really resonated with me. All of a sudden I'm locked up here. Well, that method works. All right. And we got to do several trainings in Australia where Joyce got up close and personal with the kangaroos, and even did a training course in Russia. And I have to say, every day at the end of the day, we both just felt glad to still be alive. It was a very different situation there in Russia. In the late 1990s, we were approached by IFOAM, the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movements, who had the possibility of funding from the Ministry of Environment of Finland for us, IOIA, to write an organic inspection manual. And Joyce and I led that project, and here I am in Finland presenting it to the president of IFOAM. And in that trip, also got to go to the Sauna Society headquarters in Helsinki in January at night, but there are no pictures. In 1997, USDA released their first proposed organic rule. They did it right at Christmas, December 21st, right before I was scheduled to go to Japan early in January. And I read this thing. I spent my whole Christmas holidays going through it line by line and writing comments with replacement language. The big issue is that first proposed rule would have allowed genetic engineering, sewage sludge, irradiation, the use of antibiotics to livestock, feeding slaughter byproducts to organic livestock, and it had a really bad seal, and I'll show you that. It received over 275,000 negative comments, set a record for any proposed rule USDA had ever released. This is the artwork that was proposed for an organic seal by USDA first. And I took a look at that and I thought that looks a lot like a fallout shelter or radiation hazardous warning sign overlaid with a not sign. And I don't know who came up with it, but it wasn't a very compelling message. And I knew USDA could do better because they had just recently released a Redura logo to go on irradiated food products. And doesn't that look friendly and appealing? Makes you want to pick up a package with that kind of label. Anyway, after those comments, and there were people that were fired or moved to a different department, brought in some new people, started listening to the recommendations of the National Organic Standards Board, and a final rule was issued in October, took effect October 21st, 2002. And during those same years, our farm had participated in conservation cost share programs. And so I knew about those, but I was also working as an organic inspector. And like the number one complaint I'd hear is the cost of certification. Why, as an organic farmer, should I have to pay to show that I'm taking care of the earth? Well, there was a state senator in Minnesota, Senator Janet Johnson, who brought a group of us together. What can we do to help support organic farmers? And so I had this idea to create a cost share program to help reimburse a portion of the costs of organic farmers. It was a $35,000 appropriation. It went into the first budget bill that was presented to Governor Jesse Ventura. And in Minnesota, the governor has line item veto on budgets. So he went through his first budget bill with a pig stamp. Anything he didn't like, he considered pork, and it got the pig. Well, the cost share program survived the pig. It went into effect, and then was able to work with Senator Paul Wellstone to get that same concept into the 2002 Farm Bill. And since then, we've had a nationwide organic certification cost share program. And I must say, Paul Wellstone was the most honorable, honest, hardworking politician I've ever met. We were roommates together, delegates for Jesse Jackson to the 1988 Democratic National Convention before he was a senator. I truly miss that man. I think our country misses him. But I got to be in Washington. Mr. Riddle goes to Washington. I was appointed to the National Organic Standards Board on the very last day of Bill Clinton's term in office. And here we are at a board meeting. You can just feel the excitement in the room. It's a lot of hard work, but it's a volunteer position, a 5-year commitment, and we really need good people who are committed to protecting organic integrity to step up, to offer to serve on the National Organic Standards Board. Has a very important role and is the only body that can either approve or remove materials to be used in organic crop, livestock, or processing. The Secretary of Agriculture doesn't have that power. It resides with this volunteer 15-member board. After my term ended on the National Organic Standards Board, I took a position with the University of Minnesota as organic outreach coordinator. So I got to put together lots of field days, things like presentations at the Minnesota State Fair, and wrote a publication for the fair. What is organic food and why should I care? That if you look that up, you probably can still find it somewhere online. Because of my connections with the University of Minnesota, I was invited to speak in Iran at an organic conference in both 2014 and 2015. And it was truly an honor, my second trip to Iran, to share the stage with Vandana Shiva, truly a hero in the soil health movement and organic agriculture movement. It's just like it's an honor today to be sharing the stage with Winona LaDuke, someone I've known and admired for many, many years. Would just love to be there in person, be able to give you a hug, Winona. But at any rate, when I went to Iran, I was just really humbled that this is a very ancient culture. This is Persia. And people well-educated, dedicated to protecting their environment. Here's a pomegranate farm. And one of the things I wanted to do, besides visiting historical sites, I spent about a week each trip in Iran, was to visit organic farms. So here's organic pomegranates, the best pistachios I've ever had in my life, and incredible dates. So anyway, a wonderful place, a wonderful experience. During those same years, Joyce and I were volunteering, doing work with farmers in Jamaica, and also working with some government agencies to help set up organic certification services in Jamaica, and not, done by Jamaicans, not by outsiders. So enough of this Jamaica daydreaming. We spent our days during the last 12 years, especially the summer, operating Blue Fruit Farm in Southeast Minnesota. all because Joyce had the bright idea to say, let's grow blueberries in about 2008, 2009. And that's what we've done. Incredible flavor-packed, healthy blueberries. But blueberries like an acidic soil, and our soil is not naturally acidic, so we've had to do a lot to acidify the soil. But I wanted to also grow some things that liked our soil the way it was. So we have really pushed aronia berries, elderberries, and black currants. And now my slides are moving on their own. And honeyberries, which I encourage you to learn more about. They're known as the fruit of long life, have higher antioxidant levels than blueberries, elderberries, even aronia berries. And plus you can eat them just fresh out of hand like a blueberry. We also had a lot of tour groups. This was quite a crop of kids we had running around one summer. And now we're in the process of passing on our farm operation to Ben, Natalie, and their daughter, Ostara, who just loves to be a blue fruit farmer. And they're living in our house. Well, we're spending our days with these little ones, our granddaughters here in New Hampshire, Rose and Eleanor. But it's time to get real and talk about the situation we're in right now. The starting precept that I work under, we're all children of the earth, pure and simple. That's what we are. We're natural beings who need clean air, clean water, and clean food to survive. We're part of the Earth's ecosystem, and we rely on its health for our very survival. But here's the deal. Humans have altered Earth's ecosystem to the point where human habitation may become impossible. A lot of other things are going to survive. I have no doubt about that. But can humans? We don't know. What to do? Well, we need to do like these dung beetles and get our shit together. We need to conserve energy at every level. We need to adopt renewable energy. It works. Respect nature in all ways. Think about it. Be mindful, respect. And learn to live within our means. Do we really need to order that from Amazon? Really? We have to cut greenhouse gas emissions. We know that. The science is clear. And that involves stop burning fossil fuels to wean ourselves from that. And to really stop methane emissions, both from refineries and oil wells, but also from concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs. Major source of methane emissions are coming from these CAFOs. And to stop applying synthetic nitrogen fertilizer. That causes the release of nitrous oxide, which is a much more powerful greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. It also destroys soil life and soil structure. So we need to get away from that. We have to build soil. Any of these other strategies will not succeed unless we build soil. We simply must. Healthy living soil has the ability to sequester tremendous amounts of carbon. It's really the only way that we can capture carbon from the atmosphere and get it in the ground where it does good. It's a good thing. Numerous civilizations have collapsed because they've abused the soil. And it's always been a fundamental organic principle that healthy soil leads to healthy plants, healthy animals, healthy people, and a healthy planet. That is rooted in J.I. Rodale, when he coined the phrase organic farming in the 1940s, was talking about organic matter and healthy soil. That is what organic is based on. And it's even, the definition is a very holistic definition of organic production. In the organic regulation is defined as a production system that's managed to respond to site-specific conditions by integrating cultural, biological, and mechanical practices, foster recycling, the cycling of resources, promote ecological balance, and conserve biodiversity. And the soil building component is captured in the Organic Foods Production Act very clearly when it says that in order to be certified organic, you have to have an organic plan. And for crops, that organic plan shall, not can, shall contain provisions designed to foster soil fertility, primarily through management of the organic content of the soil through proper tillage, crop rotations, and manuring. So it's right there in the law. And the National Organic Standards Board has adopted principles of organic production and handling. And they begin saying organic agriculture is an ecological production management system that promotes and enhances biodiversity, biological cycles, and soil biological activity. Is designed to optimize soil biological activity and maintain long-term fertility. So that's why we've seen organic farmers over the years just growing green manure crops and plowing them down just to feed soil organisms and to increase the organic matter content in the soil. That makes it more drought-proof. It allows water to percolate into the soil, and it captures nitrogen and carbon and puts it in the soil where it can be consumed by soil organisms and then released as nutrients to crops. That's why organic farmers go to great lengths to make compost, capturing those nutrients. At Blue Fruit Farm, we always capture our grass clippings from between the rows. We chip up the prunings and then mix with horse manure from a nearby horse farm and make just powerful compost that feeds the soil. We also plant native prairie species, increase the biodiversity and the food sources for pollinators, whether it's honeybees or bumblebees or other. And the scientific research shows that organic farming increases biodiversity at every level of the food chain, from bacteria to mammals, in peer-reviewed research. But I must say that hydroponic is not organic. But currently, the USDA is allowing it to be called, to be certified by just a handful of certifiers. It's only a few that are allowing this. And there haven't been new rules written. In fact, the NOSB passed a recommendation in 2010 saying this should not be allowed. But still, the USDA, through kind of dark of night allowances, is letting this happen. What are hydroponic production systems? Well, they're very energy intensive. They're industrial facilities. The land has been leveled, covered with plastic. They're totally artificial environments. Then they generate tons of plastic waste. They don't sequester carbon in the soil. They do nothing to promote ecological balance or conserve biodiversity, like is in the definition of organic production. They don't comply with the soil building requirements in the Organic Foods Production Act. And the organic rule has a section of its own just requiring soil building crop rotations. They don't comply with that either. And they deceive consumers when their products are being labeled organic and they're competing with real organic products. And guess what? This is only being allowed in the United States. It's clearly prohibited in the European Union and Canada, Mexico, even Jamaica's organic regulations prohibit this. But yet you have companies in Mexico, in Canada, in the Netherlands, and in the United States that are operating hydroponically, totally soilless, just a nutrient solution to feed those crops. But people are importing into the US and competing with domestic, real organic farmers and undermining markets for real organic farmers. And these systems are even inconsistent. The USDA has a big organic research program, and one of the priorities is examining optimal conservation, soil health, and environmental outcomes related to organically produced products. And the Natural Resource Conservation Service of USDA provides funding for things like establishing buffer zones, creating pollinator habitat, improving soil health, controlling erosion, grazing plans, crop rotations, cover crops. Hydroponics is totally inconsistent with that as well. I mean, organic is the original climate smart farming, but when you add in hydroponic, it undermines that whole reality of organic production. I know it's a lot to chew on. What can we do? Well, you can avoid these fake organic brands. That's what I do. And the main brands are Driscoll's, selling blackberries, blueberries, raspberries; Wholesome Harvest with tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, summer squash, eggplant; Superior Fresh, leafy greens, lettuces; and various store brands. So ask your produce manager, is this grown in soil? Is this real organic? Or is this hydroponic being marketed as organic? And I was in our local grocery store the other day, and I saw Driscoll's, USDA logo, blackberries. And right next to it were Driscoll's blackberries. But they came in 12-ounce containers, whereas the ones labeled organic were just in 6-ounce containers. And look at the price difference. The conventional ones, 12 ounces for $6. The ones labeled organic, 6 ounces for $5. That's a 67% markup just by slapping that label on. And they're all hydroponic. So that's one thing. If you're going to buy blackberries, why spend the money on the ones that are labeled organic when the others are hydroponic too? Anyway, what about sprouts? Well, here it's unique because the organic regulation has language specifically allowing sprouts to be labeled organic. They have to be 100% organic seed and grown with water, follow good manufacturing practices, be certified, but that is allowed. And then what about this plant? This is a very interesting situation. In 2018, Farm Bill allowed hemp to be grown in the US. So CBD products have really taken off, and that can be certified organic. So you see quite a few CBD products and other hemp products carrying the organic logo. But cannabis, even though a number of states have legalized for both recreational and medicinal use, is still a federal one, or Schedule 1 federal illegal drug. So it can't be certified organic, but yet there are various organic claims being made out there in the cannabis market. One interesting thing I just learned recently is the state of New Hampshire, which has a medical cannabis program, in their state law requires that the alternative treatment centers follow organic practices. So, but yet they can't be certified. So this is a story which is yet to be written, I would say, what's going to happen about organic claims being made on both hemp and cannabis products. Well, what else can we do? Well, grow a garden, learn to put up food. It's fun, it's healthy. Buy from growers that we know and trust. Establish those relationships. We've all heard it before. Know your farmer, know your food. But seek products that are certified by the Real Organic Project. And currently, Real Organic Project is certifying about 850 farmers around the country. They have to follow the USDA organic rules, but then they also have to grow in the soil. Or if they're livestock producers, they have to provide true pasture to their animals. And you'll hear more about them in just a moment. But there are products now carrying the Real Organic Product logo. Also, you can look for products that don't have hydroponic counterparts. So things like tree fruit, sweet corn, peas, beans, potatoes, onions, garlic, grains, coffee, tea. They don't have hydroponic counterparts. So you can shift some of your buying habits. But more importantly, I would say apply political pressure on USDA, the White House, members of Congress, your state Department of Agriculture, and your certifying agency to end the quote unquote organic certification of hydroponic operations and concentrated animal feeding operations. I'm not going to go into the problems there, but they're huge CAFOs with 10,000 head of dairy cattle or 100,000 head of poultry in one building or one site which are being certified as organic at this moment. But also, why not have the hydroponic industry create their own label? You know, for products that are grown only using inputs that are approved for organic use, something like hydroganic, I don't care what it is, but whatever it is, find your own word and stop trying to cash in on what we've worked so hard to create. And get informed. I mentioned the Real Organic Project. They're having a symposium starting tomorrow called Milk and Money, which really focuses on some of the livestock issues, but also the larger issues happening. And here's their logo to look for that. But they have also archived symposium and presentations on their website. The Cornucopia Institute has a great publication about the hydroponic issue, but also have done quite a bit of research on the grain fraud, imported grain fraud, things happening with the CAFOs, etc. The National Organic Coalition, as the name says, is a coalition of groups that have presence in Washington, D.C. to stand up for organic integrity. I know that the NOFA Interstate Council is very active in the National Organic Coalition, but check them out. And if you're a certified organic farmer, I encourage you to join the Organic Farmers Association. It's the only organization that provides a direct voice for certified organic farmers on national policies. There are organizational members, and most of the NOFAs have joined. I don't believe that NOFA New Jersey has yet. I encourage you to do so. The organizations and supporting members have a voice, but at the end of the day, it's only the certified organic farmers who vote on the policy positions taken by OFA. Also, the Rodale Institute has started their own kind of beyond organic certification. I call it RegenoCert, or regenerative organic certification. I don't know how many operations they've certified, but you should check that out. And Rodale is a tremendous source of information. So to kind of summarize and tie things together, I go back to where I started. Let's get real. Touch the soil. Make compost. We have it here at our house in New Hampshire. Everybody can make compost. Great way to capture those nutrients and then to feed, whether it's your garden, your flowers, your fruit trees, whatever. And take the time, get outside, even on a snowy day, listen to nature, learn from nature, and love the earth. That's what it all comes down to. We tend to take care of the things we love. We're all part of the web of life. Thank you.